Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Championship Terrace Talk. Today we're without Mark, and I'm joined by Will, who is a Boro fan. Will, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Dan. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you feeling after the result last night?
Disappointing, of course. It's now five straight losses. A lot of pressure around Carrick.
Yeah, Carrick in or out?
I'd probably say out, and something needs to change. I don't know what it is, but yeah, something needs to change.
Yeah, can't blame you. So today we thought it'd be a good idea to expand on our series we've been doing on TikTok, which is our underrated 11 in the Championship. On YouTube, we get to actually speak to you a little bit more about why we've chosen these players. So we're just going to run through it from the keepers to the strikers. Yeah. Um, so moving into the teams, we thought we'd quickly mention that most of these plays have been taken from our teams that we did a couple of weeks ago on TikTok. My formation was a 5-3-2, so it might be slightly different because we're going to do this as a 4-2-3-1. So to quickly get into it, we'll start with the keeper. I've gone with Jamie Cumming from Oxford. Jamie Cumming has the fourth highest XG prevented in the Championship so far this season, which is 6.5. He averages 3.3 saves per game, which is the third highest. Save percentage of over 70%, and also has 9 clean sheets. And I think it's been them clean sheets that has been a big part of Oxford's success so far this season. Obviously, we've got them as the highest overachievers in the league. Clean sheets against Stoke, games such as Stoke, Derby, Millwall, Burnley, Norwich, Hull, Plymouth, and Blackburn. I think he's been really good so far this season. What do you think, Will?
So I've gone for a keeper who's also near the bottom of the table. I've gone with Nicholas Schmid from Portsmouth. I think that he's been quite unlucky, really. He's had a bit of a makeshift defence in front of him. Marlon Pack being a centre mid, playing centre back. So I think that's the reason for why they've conceded quite a lot of goals. But I mean, 5 clean sheets. He's ranked 11th in the league in terms of save percentage. And I think for a team that's been struggling down in 18th for the majority of the season, I think that's quite good. He's made the step up from the Austrian league as well, where he came from in the summer. So yeah, I've been really impressed.
Yeah, I'm also a fan of Schmid. I think that's a good shout from you, Will. So moving into our right back, I've gone with Femi Sariki. I think I'll be the first to say that this could potentially be Sheffield United fan bias, but I do think if you asked any Blade who our best right back is at the club, it'd be Femi Sariki. I say the bias may come from a perspective of he's only actually started 2 games so far this season and only made 13 appearances. But he really does have Premier League quality in his physical ability. He's so quick. He's so strong. His ability to change the game as a right back is just ridiculous. When he starts running with the ball, players can't get near him, and he's just got such shades of Kyle Walker in him that it's really exciting as a Blaze fan. But yeah, he is still raw and he's injury prone, so I would be happy to back down in that regard.
Good shout. I'm going to go with a different one. I'm going to go with Andy Rinomota. And yes, he isn't your traditional right back. He's had to fill in a few times for Cardiff, but I've been quite impressed with him. He's traditional centre mid, but he's filled in right back. He can play as a 3 in a centre back as well, even right wing back. But he's just got that stability that I don't think Perry and G quite has. Quite an experienced head, 27 years old. And in a struggling side, he's gone into that position, and I just think he's looked really comfortable. The only thing I would obviously say is Perry Ng is rated quite highly. Probably could make a step up and is usually in that position, but I just think a bit of credit needs to be given to Rinomota.
Do you think the fact Rinomota is replacing Ng or filling in such big boots, do you think that's part of why he is so underrated?
I think so, yeah. When Perry Ng is playing, I think Cardiff fans would definitely agree that he's probably up there with top 3 Cardiff players, especially this season. I know watching him against Boro, he was impressive, but yeah, I think credit needs to be given to Rinomota as well.
I think the lack of potentially fit or full-time right backs in our underrated 11 allows for a couple of honourable mentions. Say Ryan Leonard and Callum Britton are 2 good shouts as well that have been unlucky to not make the cut. Okay, so shall we move into our right backs? Not our right backs, sorry, our centre backs. So my first one is Matty Pollock from Watford. I think so far this season he has just been immense. I think the thing that's so promising about him for me is his age. He's 23 and he's an English centre half. He's huge. I think I saw a stat very recently, a couple of weeks back, so I'm not sure if it's exactly the same at the moment. But he had the most blocks and most aerial duels won this season so far in the Championship, which is so impressive. It just shows how dominant he is as a centre half. Watford fans want him to be captain at the age of 23. I think that kind of says something in itself. His leadership qualities, and well, that's also just him as a player as well as his like mental strength. He's also top 10% for touches in centre back, so he's comfortable having the ball. I think this is a player that is destined for the Premier League at some point in his career.
I was just about to ask if you think he'd make the step up. Do you think he could possibly make the step up next season?
It's interesting. I think if you ask me, would I take him at the Blades if I went up? If we went up, hopefully we will. I think I definitely would. I think it's a big part of promoted teams. You need a strong backline. You need strong characters. I think the fact he's English as well will benefit him. I can't really see him going abroad particularly. Yeah, I think it'd be a great signing for any of the promoted sides.
It's a great shout. My first centre back, I'm going to go with Dimitrios Gautas at Cardiff. As we're recording this, he has just been sent off against Plymouth. But I've been impressed with him. When he played against Boro, he was just a monster at the back, absolute brick wall. And obviously, he scored against Swansea, so a bit of a fan favourite now at Cardiff. But yeah, 30 years old. He's got a lot of experience in European football, and I feel like he's brought that, and he's brought a bit of fight to Cardiff in the Championship, especially a struggling side. I think that's always quite important to bring that bit of passion, as we're also seeing with Plymouth centre backs at the moment. But yeah, he's got 80 recoveries. All in all, it's an average of 3 per game. So yeah, I think he's been really impressive.
So moving on to my second centre half, that'll be partnering Matt Pollock. I've gone with Kieran Brown from Oxford. He's been so strong as a defender for Oxford. A big part of his success and like defending is his aerial duels won 70.2% of them. He's also won 69.6% of general duels, which is in the top 8% for other centre halves. Scored lots of goals in big games, like Luton, Cardiff, and Plymouth. And I think similar to Jamie Cumming, he's a big part of that clean sheet success that Oxford have picked up 9 clean sheets. It's very impressive for a promoted side at this point in the season. It's been a big part of them being able to overachieve and be where they are at the moment. So yeah.
Good shout there, Dan. I think those 3 centre backs are probably the most underrated. But if I had to go for another one, I'm going to go with Hegum at West Brom. Signed in the summer under Corberan, and now playing really well for Mowbray's system. 26 Norwegian, 88% pass accuracy this season. I thought was impressive, especially in the modern day when you want a centre back who can play with the ball at his feet. Whether I think he's a promotion winning centre back, if West Brom do end up in the playoffs, I'm not totally sure. And I'm not sure he could make the step up, maybe another season or 2 into the Premier League. But I think for now, if their ambition is to finish in the top 6, then I think he's a good shout.
I think a big part of how good he's been so far this season, and shows how good he's been this season, is his 33 starts in a back line that also consists of Holgate, Bartley, and Ajayi, 3 English centre halves that have been around for a long time. And he's just come straight into the side and looks like he's been there he looks like a natural. He's been the best out of them for anyway, at least, hasn't he?
Yeah, agree.
So moving on to left backs, I've gone with Greg Lay from Oxford. Just as I'm speaking now, I've realised I have got 3 out of 5 of my players as Oxford players. But I do think that's a big part of the reason you are overperforming and are where you are. So I do think they are underrated. I think with Greg Lay, he's your joint top goal scorer with 5 goals. I know it's definitely a relegation contender or a side that's going to struggle to score goals, which Oxford always were going to. Being able to get goals from everywhere is so important, and I think Greg Lay has provided that. He's also so strong aerially, which matches with Kieran Brown and also the new addition of Hellick. He just fits into that strength and defence that Oxford do have and can have, and part of that clean sheet run, which has been a big part of you getting points and his goals. So yeah, he's top 3% for aerial duels won as a left back. I also don't think there's many players that have kind of been a consistent left back in the Championship this season and that are underrated. I did struggle with this one slightly. I don't know what you've gone with, Will.
I think we've got a secret Oxford fan here. I've gone for a left back who's looking like they're going to get promotion, and I've gone with Bashir Humphreys from Burnley. I think it's weird how little praise he's got, and I think he's incredibly underrated. Only 21 on loan from Chelsea. He's played a huge factor in the fact that they've got 24 clean sheets this season. Obviously, a lot of the direction and attention goes to Trafford, but the whole squad has a part to play, and Humphreys has done a really good job at locking up some of the league's best wingers. I think particularly as a Boro fan, I've watched him play against Ben Doak, and everyone knows how good and exciting Doak is. But when we played against Burnley, he's been quiet. So yeah, I've been really impressed with Humphreys. Contribute with a couple of goals, a couple of assists, which is great. So yeah, I'm going to go with Humphreys.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I know he got an assist against Blades when he played us, and I was also very impressed. I think that's a great shout. He's also not a natural left back, is he? Kind of a centre half playing at left back, but he has shown it's kind of Pep Guardiola style, isn't it? Centre backs playing at full back. He's shown he can do it really well. Yeah, I've also been very impressed. I think that's a great shout. So moving on to our two defensive centre midfielders. My first one is Casper Denore from Millwall. I think if you asked any Millwall fan, they would tell you how good he has been this season. He's a perfect defensive midfielder for Millwall. He's so good at breaking up play, his tackle success and tackles won, and also his interceptions, really good to help stop the opposition. But he's also so confident on the ball. He always wants the ball for Millwall. He's not afraid to take it in risky areas and advance play. So I've been particularly impressed with Casper Denore from Millwall.
It's a good shout, and I'm going to go with someone who's quite a similar player. I'm going to go with Sondre Tronstad from Blackburn. Struggled with injuries this season, but I think when he plays, Blackburn fans will probably agree with me. He is their best player. 29 years old, another Norwegian. They've got a couple in this team. So an experienced head, and I think when he plays with Lewis Travis as well, there's an argument for there to be one of the best midfield duos in the league. I know a lot of fans talk about Hackney and Morris at Boro, but what I would say about these two, especially Tronstad, is that they've got that bit of bite. They've got that bit of nastiness that sometimes you need in midfield, and so it'd be interesting to see a midfield duo of Tronstad and Denor, because I think that'd be really impressive. So yeah, I'm going to go Tronstad.
Yeah, I think that's another great shout. My second midfielder is Sidney Peck of Sheffield United. I think this is similar to Sariki in that he has been an academy prospect from the Blades, who I didn't think was actually going to feature this season. Obviously, we had Ollie Arblaster, Tom Davies coming in, but because of injuries, Sidney Peck has featured a lot for the Blades, and I think that's a big part of his ability as well, how often he has been available and how many games he has played for us, and performance have been so consistent. He's one of them players that just has so much dynamism. He's just got no fear in the challenge, no fear in taking on the ball. He's still very raw. He's still, I've questioned if his quality in the final third, quality in that final ball has been there. I know we both saw it against Boro. We posted a video on TikTok about how good Sidney Peck was against Boro. But yeah, I'm so impressed in how he has that bite, he has that will to win, he's got the attitude, it's all there. I think Chrissy Wilder said about how he thinks he's good enough to play for Real Madrid, and I think that's what you want to see in a young player, especially in the Championship. He's not scared of anyone. So yeah, I've gone for Sidney Peck.
I'd be interested in knowing that when Arblas is back fit, and obviously you've got Sousa in there and Peck, do you think you could go to a three in the middle or no?
I think tactically, the only way we do that is going into a five at the back. And I think a lot of our fans want to get away from that. I mean, I think me personally, going up to the Premier League, five at the back, maybe we're all a bit haunted from the seasons where it hasn't worked. But potentially, but I do think Sidney Peck will probably just take a step back in the pecking order. But if we were to loan him out, I think he'd be a great addition to any Championship club. I mean, he's been a big part of our promotion push so far this year. So I'm not sure. I really don't know, but it's a good situation to be in for the Blades.
I think that's a great shout, and I think he might be the outstanding player of this team. For my centre mid, I'm going to go with Svante Ingolson of Sheffield Wednesday. So sorry about that, but I think he's a beast, and when I've seen him play, I've been impressed, and he easily runs past midfielders. He's not played or started that many games for Wednesday. And I think he's been quite unlucky, really. I think Wednesday fans would probably agree that he needs to add some more goals to his game. I know he scored against Middlesbrough in that gut-wrenching 3-3 draw on Boxing Day. And I was really impressed when I watched him. He scored a nice goal, deep runs from midfield. And that's another thing about him. He's versatile. He can play in the 10, he can play further forward, but he can also do the hard work, hard yards back as well. 69% of his tackles are won per 90. and I think that's a good percentage you want for a defensive midfielder. So yeah, I think that completes our centre mids.
I think, do you see him as a potential Shea Charles replacement when he goes back from loan, or potentially as a different kind of player?
I think he might be slightly different player. I think Shea Charles at the moment is the most quality Wednesday have, I'd say. There's a reason he's at Southampton, and there's a reason that he's probably going to be playing in the Premier League next year, with Southampton or not. But yeah, I think Ingleson's quite exciting. He's 26, so he's sort of getting into his prime ages. But yeah, I don't think a like for like replacement there.
I think Sheffield Wednesday struggle to bring in the quality of Shea Charles again once he goes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so shall we move on to our left winger?
Sure.
So my left winger, keeping it Sheffield Wednesday themed, even though I am a Blade, is Gassama. I think Gassama's been so impressive so far this season for Sheffield Wednesday. He's one of them players that if he was more consistent, if he did have that slight more consistency in the final third and well, yeah, just overall consistency, he would be at a better side. He's one of them players that is just a live wire. He always wants to beat a man. He was always getting fouled. He's got 2.18 successful dribbles per 90. I mean, everyone loves to watch a player like that, especially in the Championship, especially a team like Sheffield Wednesday, who potentially struggle a lot of games or need a player to sort of get them out and break that press, sort of take the pressure off the defence. He's one of them players. He's one of them players that you don't necessarily see at clubs like Sheffield Wednesday. I'd want to say. I think I might get a bit of stick for that. But yeah, he's been so exciting, and he's just one of them players that can win him a game.
If Blades don't get promoted this season, would he be a player you'd like to see come over?
Unfortunately for Wednesday fans, I do think Sheffield United are just a level above players like Ben Brereton Diaz. But in terms of an underrated player, I do think Gassama fits that. I mean, he also is, even though he might not be too consistent in the final third, he does get lots of shots off, and he has scored goals. He's got 4 goals so far this season, which is good enough. It's good.
Good shout. On the left wing for me, I'm going to go with Delano Burgzorg of Middlesbrough. I absolutely love the guy at the moment. I think he's been fantastic. The only bright spark, really, as well as Mark Travers in goal over the last sort of month, 2 months. Everyone else has been completely off it. But this guy has shone through. He's took a while to get going at the start of the season, but ever since he started contributing with goals and assists, he's made that left side position his own with McGree being injured, and I can't see McGree ever getting back into the team with Burgzorg in the form that he's in. Huddersfield fans did warn us when he came in about attitude problems, arguing with fans, but haven't seen any of that. The complete polar opposite. He tries his hardest. And he comes out on social media after losses as well and just saying that we hear your frustrations, and we can see that he's trying on the pitch a lot more than other players. So yeah, I've been really impressed.
He's one of them players that has that stature. He kind of reminds me of a Boro player in terms of what Akpom was kind of built like, and also Whittaker similarly. And if he's in form, he just looks so strong, so quick. He just looks like physically so dominant of the player he's up against. What is he? He must be like 6'4". He's tall, slightly lanky build, but yeah. I've been very impressed with Burgzorg. I think that's a great shout. I do think that is one of the most underrated players in the Championship so far this season, especially speaking to you as a Boro fan. So moving on to our number 10 in our teams. Personally, I'd just like to say I did struggle slightly. I've gone for Mark Condes from Norwich City, and I understand he isn't really a typical number 10. He's kind of been more of as just a midfielder for Norwich. But I have been impressed with him. 2.04 chances per 90, which is the top 7% for midfielders. I think he just has that quality that Norwich needed. When you think of Norwich, you kind of think of Borja Sainz and Josh Sargent, and then you feel like there's a big gap. But I do think Mark Condes is one of them players that Norwich need that fills in just in the middle there. He's a playoff quality player. He's automatic. He showed it with Brentford. He can take teams up. 4 goals, 5 assists. I just think he's a real quality player for Norwich and a really good signing.
Yeah, I agree with what you said about potentially being in the shadow of Sargent and Signs. And at Brentford, he could maybe in the shadow of Tony. I mean, they had some great attacking players that season. He's had a stint with Bournemouth as well, so he's shown that he's like absolutely capable of being a top Championship player. And yeah, I agree that he doesn't get the praise that he deserves. Um, and so in my number 10, I'm going to go with Mads Frokjær Jensen of Preston North End. 25 years old, Danish. They only bought him for 1 million. And what I like about him is that he's versatile. You know, he's not your traditional number 10. He doesn't get on the ball and do all the fancy stuff. He gets back, he gets forward. Similar player to Marcondes, I think. And I know Preston fans rave about him at the moment. Could potentially be picked up in the summer by a bigger club. They're talking that he could be worth maybe 5 million. So a lot of profit made there. I think that one thing I would say is that he maybe needs to contribute with a few more goals and a few more assists. Um, but Preston fans really rate him. And yeah, I think he'd be a solid 10 for most Championship sides. And I think he gets a bit of undeserved stick as well.
Yeah, there was that TikTok that went around with him as the actually worst 10 in the Championship, which I think definitely is incorrect. I do think it's just in general, it was quite tricky to find a number 10. I think this season, potentially, is there not the quality of 10s in the Championship this season? I'm not sure. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, when I think of the top sides, you go to Leeds and you think of maybe Aronson, 8 goals and 2 assists. Like it's not exactly setting the world on fire, and there's a reason that Leeds fans maybe aren't too happy with him. I know you could potentially say Piru's a 10, even like because he comes quite deep. It's a weird one with Leeds because they don't have an out and out striker, and you know with Sunderland, is Chris Rigg the best 10 in the league? Azaz. I think it's quite a low
That's
mark.
an interesting one, especially with you as a Boro fan. He's dropped off recently, hasn't he? I'd mention Sheffield United's Cal O'Hare. I mean, personally, I quite like him, but he's not 100% there. He doesn't have the whole fan base convinced. Josh Brownhill at Burnley. Seen Burnley fans don't particularly rate him. I think he just disappears in certain moments. So yeah, it's a tricky one as a number 10. But all of them could potentially be shouts because they are all somewhat questioned, especially like Brownhill. Yeah, I like that shout, Will.
Right, so moving on to right wingers, both of us kind of struggle with this position as well a little bit. But I think one player that doesn't get the praise he deserves is Paul Smith of QPR. I think that he's a player he's been at QPR for quite a while now. He's played over 100 appearances. I just love his energy on the wing. He's a small guy, but up against bigger defenders, it makes it look quite easy. He reminds me of I say a little less quality version of Ben Doak, as in his stature and the way that he likes to run with the ball. Northern Ireland international. He's popped up with a few goals and assists for QPR this season in a side that has struggled, but obviously recently Marty's turned it around. But yeah, I think that, and I say it with a couple of other QPR players, and I maybe have one as my striker, but yeah, I think he's been really impressive this season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you in terms of it's very hard to pick out a right winger. I think that is probably the best shout in terms of an underrated one. I thought I would mention someone that isn't particularly right winger. I think when we talk about wingers, we kind of don't acknowledge teams that play five at the back. So as a right wing back or wing back in general, I know he's played on both sides briefly. Kesler Hayden from Preston. I've been so impressed with him. I think he's a good shout. But yeah, right wingers, I think they're difficult to find, especially this season in the Championship. Yeah,
I agree. Going on to strikers then, Dan, do you want to tell us yours first?
So sticking with a Preston theme in just the mention of Kesler Hayden, I've gone with Osmajic. I know there hasn't been, he's not been in the papers for good reasons recently. And obviously we completely are against anything that's happened. It looks a bit dodgy. It looks like he might get away with it because I don't know if there is evidence. It doesn't look great for him though in the video. But he's shown he can score goals. He's got the fifth highest goals per game ratio in the league, 0.6 goals. He's just one of them horrible players. And you kind of think about a Championship play. I think of like Ched Evans, Gary Medine. You kind of need them sometimes. And he scores goals for Preston, and Preston are doing well. And that's a big part of it. He's got on points. Like games that come to mind is Norwich and Watford. His goals is the difference. And if you were a centre half in the Championship and you kind of think, who do I not want to play? It's Osmajic. It's did he buy it? Was it Owen Beck? at Blackburn as well. He's just an awfully
He's a
nasty
nasty
player.
guy. Yeah.
But he scores goals in 12 goals in all competitions for Preston. I like it. I think it's impressive. I think he's got great to watch as well because he's got that attitude.
Yeah, I think sometimes you need, as you touched on, you need that nasty player. Of course, we don't condone the racism allegations and the biting, but yeah, I think Preston fans, in terms of his footballing ability and what he actually does with the ball and how he affects the game, I think Preston fans really like him. And so my
His work
striker is
rate
actually quite
as well.
similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, my striker is similar in that sense that he's a bit of a machine, does the dirty hard yards, and I'm going to go with Michael Frey for QPR. I absolutely love watching him because you just don't really know what you're going to get from him. You know you're going to get the sheer determination. He's basically a monster on the pitch, and he could have maybe scored some more goals. He's only got 6 this season, but I think considering QPR's start, and the way that they rotate their front three sometimes, I've been really impressed, and I take him at Boro, even as just a second choice striker, a little bit different, maybe sometimes go a bit longer, a bit more direct. But yeah, I'm a big fan of Michael Frey.
I think it's nice to see just two real traditional number nines, especially in the Championship. There's been a big conversation that there isn't many quality number nines in the Championship this season. And I mean, the two picks that we've gone with, could they make the step up to the Premier League? No, I don't think so personally. Anyway, but they're two proper strikers that have shown they can score goals, and they do the whole number nine. Well, they complete the whole job as a number nine, don't they? Really.
Yeah, and off the top of my mind as a Borough fan, I'm thinking of watching Kelechi Iheanacho against Bristol City in his first couple games, and I think I'd swap him for any of these two in a heartbeat, really. As you said, you hit the nail on the head. They're the proper Championship strikers. Whether they'd fire you into the top 6, probably not. But if you're gunning for mid-table, or even if you had one of these strikers and you're battling relegation, like QPR were, I think you'd be really happy with it.
Well, that is the end of the video. Thank you for watching. It's been me, Dan. I'm a Sheffield United fan, and Will is a Borough fan. Will also features on the Borough podcast. We have a podcast for every single Championship team. All will be linked in our description. So go and check out your team. We're hoping we can do more consistent videos like this on this main channel of Championship Terrace Talk. We've obviously got the predictions coming out as well, which will be out later on in the week. But yeah, let us know what kind of videos you want to see. Let us know what other players you think should have made this list. If you agree with us, if you disagree with us, we'd love to hear it and why. But yeah, please make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, thank you for watching.